Welcome to the CyberJA podcast, the place where we discuss all things cybersecurity and GRC. I am Richard Perry, your cybersecurity and GRC enthusiast. The aim of this podcast is to provide a meaningful, value-added platform via which upcoming cybersecurity professionals like yourself can gain insights from various topics covering cybersecurity and GRC that will enable them to become professionals that the industry demands. Stay tuned for what next on the CyberJA podcast. CISO at Eclipse.io Inc., formerly Intel Corp Cybersecurity Strategist, Board Advisor, Keynote Speaker, and very recently nominated as one of the top cybersecurity persons to follow for 2023. Matthew Rosenquist, nice to have you joining us on CyberJA today.
It's my pleasure.
Great, and I really look forward to having this conversation and being a podcaster yourself of the Cybersecurity Vault podcast, which I highly recommend persons to, subscribe and to check out the valuable conversations that you have, on your platform. It must be a little bit more relaxing on the other side of the mic for you at this point in time, I believe.
I enjoy being on both sides of the microphone. I just like having good conversations about a topic that I'm very passionate about, and that's cybersecurity.
Sure, great. Likewise, myself, I definitely have that passion for these conversations. Now, Matthew, can you let our audience understand the genesis of your career? And the reason for that is oftentimes people, including upcoming cybersecurity professionals, they see the profiles of professionals in the industry, but they really do not understand the story behind the journey. And to me, the journey, that story is very important. And at times, you're not able to highlight and to go into all the details of what is actually placed on your resume or on a LinkedIn profile. And at this time, at times, this can also send persons off on the wrong path, which also leads to career frustration if proper mentorship or guidance is not given to such individuals. And that's one of the main reasons for actually having these type of conversations where persons can actually gain those insights, understand that what you're seeing is not something that actually happens overnight, but it's a process. There are challenges, there are ups and downs, there's a genesis to all of this. So can you share with us your career story? Which of course involves telling us about yourself for sure.
Yeah, and there is no one single path. To have a meaningful career, there's a lot of introspection, and then there's a lot of hard work, and sometimes there's even a little bit of luck involved. But there are, as you said, ups and downs. And I've been in this industry for a little over 34 years. So I've been dealing with security and risk. And I actually started when I was really young, and I started working for a company doing investigations for theft, for fraud, for embezzlement, things of that sort. And I started to understand that there is an opponent, there's an adversary out there, somebody who is living and breathing, somebody who has their own ideas and motivations, and who can be really creative in what they're trying to accomplish. Now, what they're trying to accomplish is not good. But when I ended up joining Intel, and I was with Intel for 24, almost 25 years, I was very technical, and I love technology. I always have. But keep in mind, back in the day, cybersecurity didn't exist. In fact, information security didn't exist. It was called back in the day computer security. And so it was an evolution. And when I started, I was a domain administrator for, it was even before Active Directory. It was MAD domains is what they called them. So I was a administrator for Novell and for Banyan Vines Network and for the Mad Domains. And I just soaked up as much technical experience and knowledge as I possibly could. And that helped me out because technology is the battleground. It's the playing field. We have the threat, right? The threat agent, the person, but we all play on this chessboard, which is the technology world. So I started, understanding that. And I eventually proposed, built, and managed Intel's first 24/7 security operations center. And it was at a time where many companies didn't have security operations centers. Carnegie Mellon hadn't come out yet with their playbook on how to build them. So it was, let's just figure this out. There weren't that many software vendors. Today, there's a plethora, thousands, literally thousands of software vendors. Back then, there weren't. I had to sit down with startups and say, I will help design your software, but you need to create those features and then support it in your public offering. And that was very, very innovative. But I had the technology background. I understood the threats. I understood our own networks and systems. So that worked out well. Shortly after that, we needed a crisis capability. So I spun up, and I actually wasn't even the one that designed it, but I was kind of part of that team. A great team designed Intel's crisis response team, modeled after the US FEMA organization. And I was brought in as the first incident commander. So I was the first incident commander for the company. So anytime the company got attacked, I owned responding to that for all of the IT infrastructure and systems and whatnot. Great experience, right? Figuring out what works, what processes, and how important the interaction between technology, people, and processes really is, right? So these are key learnings. After that, I was asked to manage all security for all Intel managed clients and systems out there. And I started realizing, okay, how many security tools do we have? And I asked some senior managers, and they said, oh, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 8. And I started doing an inventory because you need to know what you're dealing with. I stopped at 146 tools and realized this is a much bigger problem and challenge just to manage at scale. So I started to understand the scalability aspects of it. And, my career just went from the next impossible problem. They asked me to come in and be the cybersecurity strategist for all of our global manufacturing and to justify spending an incredible amount of money to protect them. Well, there was no defined standards, and there still isn't, on how to justify spending. So I ended up developing a return on security investment model. And the idea at the time was there is no possible way, because of the ambiguity, because of the chaos, to do an ROI model for security. Well, I went in and looked at 4.1 million data points and created an algorithm and tempered it and, Six Sigma and everything else, and was able to predict what were the impacts if we did nothing. What was it if we implemented phase 1 or if we implemented phase 1 and phase 2? And I was able to show that for a whole bunch of different factories and prove it, right? If you don't do anything and after 6 months, and they did this, they waited 6 months and said, okay, you predicted this number of incidents, this amount of downtime, let's go check your numbers. Right. And when it came back of being really accurate, they said, okay, we believe you. Now we want to reduce it. We see the value of investing this huge amount of money. And it turned out to be accurate. So again, what's the next problem after that? What's the next problem after that? And my career at Intel was just a series of what is the biggest problem? Let me go tackle it. They brought me in to build out and manage security for all of our mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, site closures, and co-location. So now you're talking billions of dollars of investment and or risk. right? From there, we ended up spinning out or building out what was called Intel Security. We bought a little company called McAfee and a whole bunch of other acquisitions, right? Brought those together and they said, hey, can you come up with a security strategy now that we've bought all these things? Yes, I can be the security strategist and figure that out. Great. And so I started working with McAfee and doing their external predictions in the industry. So I work with brilliant people out of McAfee labs and in tearing down malware and understanding vulnerabilities and all those nuances. Again, more experience, more insight. From there, I was asked to actually manage all the security landing in Intel's core chips. So now I'm getting the perspective of hardware security and firmware security above that. And I knew the VM and the operating system security and the application security and then the data security and then the people on top. And so again, just gaining more and more insights to the depth of our industry. And my last job at Intel is they asked me to come in and build out and manage the security for a multi-billion-dollar AI group. Okay. So I had to learn and dive into the aspects of artificial intelligence, right? Not only the designs and architectures and understanding ML and DL, but realizing how that manifests in hardware, how it could be optimized, and then also firmware and software and use cases and understanding the nuances of how it impacts security, both good and bad, because it's just a tool. It can be used for both. But throughout my career, I have always sought to learn more, to get more exposure, so I could be better at what I'm doing. And that's what I love about this industry. Yes, it is very fast. There is a incredible amount of ambiguity. Things are always changing, right? No 2 days are alike. And there's a lot of hours, there's a lot of work, there's a lot of potential stress, but I love it. I thrive on it. And this is the career that makes me happy. In fact, there's nobody out there that lasts in cybersecurity for very long that doesn't basically have a passion for it. You're not going to deal with the stress and the frustration and so forth if you don't actually like it. So I see and I advise a lot of people coming into the industry, a lot of people who are already here and looking to elevate. And what I'll tell people coming into the industry is you may see the dollar signs. You may see how you're going to get a 20 or 30% premium over an IT job, but there's a lot more stress involved. There really is. If this isn't your passion, you're not going to last. But if it is your passion, you will have the opportunity to continually learn, continually get better, and be able to make a difference, not only in your career, but in the careers of others and in how we all as a community drive improved trust for digital technology.
Awesome. I am actually so much intrigued and captivated by the way you have actually unearthed and also unpacked all of this. And for many persons, they might be saying, hold on, Matthew, hold your horses. I am trying to get into cybersecurity. I don't have any experience. Where do I start? You have all of these experiences. It's almost like all of these doors automatically open for you, and you just went all along smoothly and you enjoyed the ride. I mean, when you talked about the way you actually started, I also remembered, I started reflecting, looking at when Windows was just a DOS prompt. I remember the first time when I actually connected just a work group, not being aware of actually domains.
Yes, Windows 3.1 was the first Windows that actually had a network stack. Windows 3.1 didn't, 3.1.1 did. Yes.
So I definitely remember.
I was there. I remember.
It was fun days. I actually got that appreciation of every single bit. I remember what it is to be running cables under the decks on buildings. I remember when Wi-Fi's were actually introduced, testing with all of the, so having that holistic approach is very important to building your skill set. And you have actually mentioned a number of important points. So the thing is, for many persons, is that in all of this, where do I actually start? I mean, can you take us to maybe a little bit back in time in terms of how you actually navigated your way forward to where we are in
Yes.
midst of all these
Um,
wonderful things?
I wouldn't advocate anybody, installing Windows 3.11 to start at the beginning, right? We live in today and technology is around today, but there are a lot of lessons if you look back at the direction. As new technology came out in my early career, I was looking into it. I was adopting it. I was trying to figure it out, how to break it, how to keep it up and alive, right? Today, we don't have to worry about blue screens of death. That was a normal thing that happened every single day. Today, our computers boot up incredibly fast. Back in the day, it could take 5 minutes to reboot a system. So you're sitting and waiting. It's hurry up and wait, hurry up and wait. So we can look back with nostalgia on those early days, but there was also a lot of frustration. There really was.
Yes,
I would not want to go back.
definitely not.
But the same ideas in gathering experience, in learning from others. Things did not come easy. Nothing was just handed to me in my career. I had to go after it, and I had to be the best in the room at any given situation. If I was going to get that promotion, if I was going to be able to get that job or that next impossible task. And one of the things I have to say is I surrounded myself with brilliant people. I would go and sit down with the network people, the most brilliant people we had, and learn from them. Same thing for silicon engineers or firmware or operating system experts or whatnot, both at my company and beyond. So I started building those connections because it is always a learning opportunity. And it's not just on the technical side. I had to learn how to communicate, right? I mean, back in the day, I was very much an introvert. I just wanted to learn and play with technology because it was really cool. Well, that's great and all, and you can contribute. But if you can't communicate, if you can't work with others on larger problems, so yeah, you need to be able to learn those soft skills as well. How do you communicate? How do you inspire others? And then as you're leading these teams, you have to learn leadership. And I've always a fan of leadership. One of my favorite leaders is actually Patton, General Patton. Crazy as he was also brilliant at organizing people and motivating them and getting them to do things that were impossible. And that always fascinated me. So again, all those soft skills. When I go out to universities and speak and and teach and so forth, I will sit down with students and talk with them, but also sit down with the teachers, the professors, the administrators, and talk about, okay, how do we train not only the hard skills, but also the soft skills as well? Because you need both. But for anybody in basically any profession, you need to get proficient. And today, that's about the technologies. It's about those soft skills as well. But you need to have that drive to want to learn. And there's not a single path into cybersecurity. You could be a network expert. You could be a cloud expert. You could be an endpoint expert. You could love digital forensics. You could love leadership. You could love business analytics. You could love AI or be an expert in quantum, right? All these can lead in, and many, many more paths can lead into a successful cybersecurity career. But you have to realize where you want to be in the cybersecurity world. Do you want to be a cybersecurity lawyer? Do you want to be a network cybersecurity expert? Do you want to be incident response? Do you want to be a CISO? Right? Do you want to be a security architect? Do you want to be a cloud security architect? The first step is to figure out where your passion is, where you want to go, and then start building the skills and gaining the experience to get there. Nobody gets their dream job coming out of the gate. It is a journey. So start with the knowledge and the experience, and you may be going to college, or you may be doing a boot camp, right? You may be doing hacker exercises or a malware lab online. There's a lot of free resources. You may be taking classes on LinkedIn, right? There's a lot of resources to start that knowledge. And then that next step is to start getting experience and building your way on that career ladder to the path you want to go. And the odd thing is, a lot of people, when I talk with them and they're starting their career, they've got in mind, right? They've said, oh, I know where I want to be. I want to be a CISO, or I want to be this network security engineer. Awesome. And this is going to be my path. And as they start their journey, they get exposed to new ideas, new technologies, new roles, right? And suddenly they're like, I really like this AI stuff. I think I'm going to go in that. And they start branching. There is no hard, fast rule that you have to pick a target and stick with it. The journey itself will expose you to new and radical technologies and ideas and skills and roles, things that may not even exist today. And it's okay to then adjust your journey, but you do need a starting point, right? And that needs to derive from passion, because it's going to take your time. It's going to take your focus. It's going to take a lot of brain cells to start gathering that expertise so that you can accomplish something, so that you can be valuable to get to the next step.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I mean, lots of valid points there as well. One of the challenges the questions that persons actually ask me from time to time is the fact that when they look, for example, at the various job roles or the job descriptions, and then they see all the various things that they must acquire in order to fill those job roles. What's your advice? Should someone actually look at a particular job role and try to acquire all of those skills, and then maybe a few years or a few months down the road, it's totally obsolete? And I think at times that is where you have all the confusion for many persons trying to move forward.
There is a lot of confusion. In fact, we're doing a disservice, unfortunately, when companies are putting out job descriptions. The problem is, most companies, when they're looking for cybersecurity professionals, they don't really know what they need or what they want. And so they may put out a job description. We need 15 years experience and all these different certifications for a level 1 SOC analyst.
Exactly.
No, level 1 SOC analyst is kind of an entry-level job, right? You need to have some base, but it's really an entry-level kind of training job. But they're putting basically a job description for a CISO or a director of security. They don't know. And because that's been going on for so long, people now, when they have a new job, they just search to see what somebody else has posted and they cut and paste it. So they're cutting and pasting the same absurd mistakes, the higher expectations that are unrealistic, and they're using those. So it continues to propagate. Now, there are some resources out there for hiring companies to write better recs that are more realistic. There's a great company out there by Deidre Diamond. Her company is CyberJA, and she actually works with, it's a hiring company.
Yes,
she works with her clients to help them write realistic job descriptions. And on her site, she's broken out a whole bunch of different roles. So if you're looking for a job, you can kind of look at that and go, oh, these are the 5 roles that I'm kind of interested in. There's a government site called cyberseek.org, I believe, and it's from the US government. And again, it shows different roles and how to get there. Start here, move to this role, what kind of skills. NICE, which is a government agency, and NSF, they've put out documents that also talk about these are the kind of roles, these are the kinds of skills. So there are resources out there. But the one piece of advice for cybersecurity professionals that are looking for that next job is do an internal evaluation. What skills do you have? What can you contribute to? and then look at the job that they're asking for in the rec. And even if you don't have that certification, you know, the one certification they're looking for, you don't have all of them, or you don't have as many years as they're asking for, still apply for the job. Right? There are so many job openings right now. And because of that miscommunication, they may not be getting a whole lot of recs in. So apply for the job anyway. You might get that interview. And in that interview, focus on what you do know, what you can deliver, and what you're looking to learn. Because that's very, very meaningful to those companies. And I've seen time and time again that resonate with hiring companies and go, yes, this is what we want. This person can do what we're asking. Even though we said 15 years, this person actually has the skills that we need for that SOC operator tier 1 or tier 2, right? Something like that. So don't be afraid to submit your resume in to try for jobs, even if you don't meet all the requirements, because some of them are truly, truly absurd. You know, they're asking for 10 years experience in a technology that's only been around for 5 years, right? I've seen this time and time again. I have. In fact, I actually had it with, back in the day, I developed what's called the TARA methodology, right? It's a risk analysis methodology. And somebody had posted, you know, we need so many years in that. And I replied to them and said, well, I can guarantee you I have more years than anybody else. And it wasn't around back then, right? I am the author of it. And even I don't have that many years experience in the TARA methodology because I hadn't written it yet. Will you please revise your job description? Right. So again, there's a lot of absurdity going on. Know that going into it and still apply for those jobs.
That's a very important note for us to end this amazing conversation. I mean, there's so much for us to actually go into in terms of, I mean, this conversation could go for hours. But one of the last question I really want to ask is, what were the challenges, some of those challenges that you've actually faced along your career journey? And I mean, ways in which I've actually dealt with those to maintain that level of momentum and positivity as you actually excelled in your career journey.
Yeah. Understanding a couple of different aspects, because cybersecurity can be very, very difficult and frustrating. And it's not just the attacker's side. The attacker's actually pretty predictable. You know they're going to go after your money or try and get into your systems. A lot of the challenges that frustrate people the most are actually internal. Cybersecurity, especially for organizations who don't have a mature system, right? Environment or team, people often oversimplify security, especially executives. They don't know it. They think it's just a technology problem. It's like a light switch. I either get security and I turn it on and I'm secure, or I don't and it's off, right? It's binary, but it really isn't. And trying to communicate that to executive management can be frustrating. A lot of boards or C-suite, they go, okay, we need security. We're going to throw some money at it this year. It'll get fixed. And then we don't have to invest in it anymore. It's done. We're secure. Well, that doesn't work either, right? You get product teams that will start to develop a product, and you're going, well, hey, wait a second, you need to design it with secure architecture, be thinking about secure use cases and all of this. And they go, well, we're really in a rush. You know what? We'll do all that security stuff after we release it. No, you won't. You won't. And so again, there's a lot of internal issues, perspectives, and viewpoints that tend to limit security and can be equally or even more frustrating than dealing with the actual attackers themselves. So there are lots of challenges, internal and external, that we have to expect whenever we're dealing with cybersecurity and whenever we're trying to promote it. And we have to know our role, right? As a CISO, my role is to provide good information, right? A good strategy about cybersecurity risks to the executives, to the board, and to the CEO, and sometimes the rest of the C-suite. It's their decision to decide how much to invest and when. So my job is really to provide them timely information so that they can make good business decisions. And then once they decide, okay, this is our risk appetite, this is where we want to be, great. I'm going to go execute to that and get us at that risk level. But as a security professional, it's not, we need all the money, this security is the most important thing, because sometimes it isn't. And we have to accept that we're part of a larger system. So no matter whether you're an entry-level person or you're the CISO, these are factors that impact what you're going to be able to do, who you're going to be able to talk to, what kind of budget you're going to be able to have, how you're going to configure your tools, what your kind of threats and vulnerabilities you're going to look at, what capabilities you're going to have to be able to detect and respond and recover. It's all tied together as part of a large system. So it's not just the technical side. Technical is very important, but there are also the behavioral sides and the process side to make sure that you have consistency and comprehensiveness across time. It's a big picture. It's a complex beast, but everybody can play a role in it. So there are huge opportunities. And as long as you've got a passion for it and you're okay with the ambiguity and something new every single day, then cybersecurity could be the career for you.
Awesome. Matthew, I really enjoyed this conversation and the valuable information you've actually shared with us today coming from an art of passion and experience. And I really look forward to many more of these conversations with you, because I mean, you have actually gone into so many avenues that we could actually take this conversation to a whole different level. So I really appreciate your time and information shared with us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. We're all here. We all have a responsibility to help the next generation take over and come up. We need really bright, smart people with all sorts of different backgrounds and ideas to help make digital technology trustworthy.
Awesome, great. So guys, there you have it. Stay tuned, stay connected for all future updates. I'm Richard Perry, host of the CyberJA podcast.